Recording this music in the UK became a generational struggle as young blues musicians ran the gauntlet of Jobsworth British recording engineers in their starched white coats.
Sometimes brown coats. Yeah, no, but I mean, they were so de rigueur, you know, like, no, you can't do that. No, you're overloading. Yes, we want to overload.
They didn't want to go into the red. They were taught that you don't distort. Distortion, dear boy, is bad news.
You're up against this monolithic idea of like the correct method of recording. And we're not looking for the correct method. We're looking for the incorrect method, you know.
But of course, in the blues, you do distort. You do go in the red. It is rough. It does go out of tempo. That's the beauty of it, because it's coming from the moment, you know.
Sorry, mind my microphone. Well, I'm not trying to hurt it, you know what I mean? But no, you're playing too loud into it, and you've moved it.
After learning to play and learning to record came the hardest lesson of all, learning your place. American blues masters continued to visit Britain, but now there was a generation of young musicians to back them. First in line to share the same stage with a blues legend in 1964 were the Blues Breakers, led by John Mayall.
They wanted to bring over John Lee Hooker as a test thing, and they booked him a whole string of dates up and down the country with the Blues Breakers backing him. We played all the places, and we opened at the Flamingo, and there was a phenomenal response to that, and it kind of pioneered the way.
There's John Mayall looking at him with, well, we can only see half his face, so he looks from here, so he might be a bit dubious, but I can assure you he's not. He's looking at him with admiration. The marvellous Mr. Hooker. I didn't get to know him all that well. We had a meal together one afternoon, but that was when I went to interview him, and we went off and had chicken and chips or something, which, you know, that in those days, that was the height of cool. But meeting him was the height of cool, I can assure you.
When the Groundhogs backed Hooker that same year, guitarist Tony McPhee took the opportunity to look and learn from his hero.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna shoot you right down.
Just watching him, his technique. Well, I saw him, first time we did that first week, I saw him, he played fingerstyle without pick. So that's it, I'll do that.
Boom, 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 boom.
And the other thing was he had his trapper as the right shoulder.
Up and down the floor.
I thought I'd do that as well, which even now it falls off.
That baby talk.
But it's easy to put on.
I like it like that.
Everything he did, I wanted to do
Ho.
to make me him in right form.
Yes, ma'am.
McPhee also learned the real meaning of backing group.
When I did a solo, he used to stand in front of me and do his stuff. Everybody was thinking it was probably him playing. That was me. But I didn't mind. I didn't care.
They had no idea about keeping time, necessarily, or because often they start out, they play by themselves, they would just stamp their feet, you know, and when they got more excited, they stamped them faster. So if you were trying to play with them and follow them, it wasn't easy, you know.
Telepathy, I think. He learned telepathy, with John especially, because you didn't know where he was going to change. He changed whenever he wanted to.
Start rolling.
So what I like about you guys is that I can do 11 bars, 13 bars, 12 and a half, but you know when to change, because you just feel it. You know, it's coming up to it.
It's the movement in it, and the way he's shifting the patterns and the rhythms and the way the chords are falling, you know, and what he's doing with them are just terrifying.
We did realise, you know, pretty early on that we were these white imposters. I mean, we played with, you know, people like Sonny Boy Williamson, for Christ's sake. You know, used to get very drunk, would think nothing of changing arrangements, screwing up the band. Anyway, we were whiteys, what did he care? And he'd actually said, you know, when he got back to the States, these boys want to play the blues so badly, and believe you me, they do, you know. Which was probably a fairly nice thing for him to say.
Manfred Mann, who already had several chart hits to their name, also accepted the honour of backing Sonny Boy on stage.
Thank you very much.
Sonny Boy was a grumpy old character, but the problem really was that Manfred Mann was made up mostly of trained musicians who could read music and write music. And we fell out over how many bars there are in a 12-bar blues. You know, I mean, the trained musicians thought it must be 12, surely.
You just keep it all to yourself.
And Sonny Boy knew the correct answer, which was any number that I want it to be.
Do that for me, darling. Don't make it to no one else.
Here we have the rather devilish, satanic-looking Sonny Boy Williamson with his harlequin suit, which was in black and sort of beige, as I recall.
I remember Sonny Boy Williamson was staying with our manager, Giorgio Gromelski, in his flat in Lexham Gardens, round the corner here. And we came one day, we came home to the flat, and there's all this noise going on, you know. And then we opened the bathroom, and Sonny Boy Williamson is plucking a live chicken in the bathroom, you know, like he did back home, you know. So I mean, there was a lot of cultural differences, you see.
Cultural differences became increasingly obvious the more American blues legends began visiting Britain in the early 60s. Tours mounted on shoestrings often relied on artists staying with their fans, not in hotels. When Jessie Fuller first came to Britain, Val Wilmer invited him to stay with her and her mother in South London.
I went to see him as soon as he arrived, and then I brought him over to our house, and this was in Streatham in South London, which was a rather smart place in those days. And there he is taking tea in my mother's drawing room. And then he played for us harmonica and kazoo with a harness round his neck so he could switch from one to the other and play guitar at the same time. And allegedly Bob Dylan copied that harness from him. And there he is with my brother. I love these photographs. Although I took myself, I love them because, you know, it was a special time. We didn't get on all that well, actually. I mean, I found him a very miserable person, to be quite frank. He always complained about the fact that he couldn't get a hamburger, you know. I don't know if Wimpy's had started in those days, but he was always complaining about it. So my mother got him some mince and he made his own hamburger. So there he is cooking it in the kitchen.
And we'd like you to meet the king of smokestack lightning, Howlin Wolf.
Chris Barber had first invited Howlin Wolf to the UK in 1962. On subsequent visits, young British blues musicians discovered that as far as the Wolf was concerned, rehearsals were for pussies.
Wolf walked in with his tour manager. He used to just looked around, looked at us, looked at the gig. And we thought, well, we're going to rehearse now. He pulled out a harp and just started playing the slow blues, and we joined in. We did about 2 choruses. Yeah, they're fine. See you tomorrow. First gig tomorrow in Sunderland.
Oh, the train I ride on. Oh, the angels shine like gold.
Here's Memphis Slim and Muddy Waters say the white man can't play the blues. They should never say such thing as that. The white man can't play the blues. Anybody can play the blues, white or black, but he can't feel what I feel because he never lived a slave life. He didn't have nobody to spit in his face and he couldn't do nothing about it, and he's a man. See, so this is what blues is all about. Whiskey, women, and blues.
But in the States, whiskey, women, and especially the blues simply weren't on the menu anymore.
In America, even the blacks didn't like the blues anymore. It was considered old hat, Uncle Tom. You know, like, who listens to, you know, George Formby, you know? Come on, we love him, but, you know, it's not a lot of George Formby tribute bands. Or maybe there are.
You know, there's the problem of, you know, black people not wanting to be reminded of their roots and wanting to hear things that were more suave and middle class and sophisticated.
A lot of the younger black people wanted to move on up, if you like. And the blues were, yeah, they were associated with, you know, the Delta, the cotton and slavery even. It goes back, I mean, it goes back to that, it goes back to West Africa.
In a kind of unofficial exchange program, British R&B bands began visiting America, unaware that the blues were ignored in their own country. They were about to change the course of popular music forever. Some bands finally achieved the recorded sound they'd so desperately sought in Britain at Chess Records in Chicago.
2220 South Michigan Avenue. And suddenly you're in the room. One of the rooms.
They knew about sound, they knew about guitars, they knew about guitar players, and they had it all geared up, you know, and it was just amazing.
In came Willie Dixon, Chuck Berry, Maddie, Buddy Guy, all came in to listen to us.
Yeah, and they wanted to know, like, how we were doing it and why we wanted to do it. You know, why you want to play like me? You know, it has to be very good stuff, you know. And, yeah, one day I might get there.
You know, what were they thinking about us? You know, you're doing our stuff and da-da-da-da and coming into our world. Luckily, it was a happy marriage because we paid attention and we knew, you know, in truth, really how to behave.
Just the first take. I mean, I think we all went out in the outside and wept and said, "Yes, it's that easy."
That was the time that the Yardbirds got their sound down onto tape. Then we moved down to Memphis and had an amazing opportunity to record at Sun Studios with the very guy who recorded Howlin Wolf and Elvis Presley, Sam Phillips. He came in from a weekend's fishing trip. I don't know how we did it. And it was in a room, a tiny little room, you know, the size of a kitchen, where everything, you know, old amps, mics that weren't moved. But what a kick-ass sound. I mean, these guys.
Blues hasn't been a popular music in America. And in fact, it seemed like white America didn't even know about blues, only little corners here, corners there. But when the Rolling Stones, The Who, and I can name you quite a few groups that came over here after the Beatles, oh boy, it opened up then.
In America, the audience for blues was black until the British thing, and then people started listening to, like, John Mayall or maybe us or whoever. And I talked to a guy who said he actually discovered that John Lee Hooker, who he'd never heard of, lived 2 blocks away.
The media didn't know what it was. You know, the famous thing about the Beatles. And they said, you know, what do you most want to see when you're over here? And they said, Muddy Waters. And they said, where's that?
And when anybody ever asked us, who did that song, we'd say that's Elmore James' song, that's a Muddy Waters song, that's a Howlin Wolf song, You Little Water, that's... and gave them the credit and talked about it in interviews and how great they were and all that, you know. We were getting letters from people in Chicago saying, where can I find this music?